What I noticed with the homegrown players that you mentioned, because sometimes the homegrown players Filipino players are too sensitive.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why they get frustrated or they throw tantrums if things don't go their way. So me, I just I like what I've said. I just adapt. If there's a player who's better than me, then I'll support him. But also trying to improve myself to get that position.
It's Football Friday, which means a brand new episode on Across the Line. Today, we've got one of the more decorated homegrown players in the country, OJ Clarino.
Yeah, great to have him on the show. I remember him back in the Stallions days. Him and Noy Falonko would be nipping at my heels every game, beating me up with some late tackles. So it was nice to actually sit down and have a conversation with him because it's something that I've never had the opportunity to do. And really interesting to find out a little bit more about his background. I didn't know he had such a huge family. I knew he came from a footballing family. But nice to see how that sort of forged his competitive spirit and his drive and his passion for the game. And obviously that's manifested in itself in how he plays the game. And other little tidbits around him, considering he was going to retire this year. I didn't really realise that, and his woes with some of the injury problems that he's had during the course of his career. So, real broad spectrum and different avenues that he takes us in this interview. But it was nice to sit down and talk with, like you said, a well-decorated homegrown talent.
Yeah, it's been 8 years since sort of that change in Philippine football where a lot of foreign-based stars came over and really uplifted the standard of the game, and he's been riding that wave, and we get an opportunity to really dive into that experience for him. If you like this episode, please do subscribe on YouTube, Spotify, and on Apple Podcasts. Look for us on social media. We're on Facebook, Instagram, and on Twitter. And without further ado, here's our episode with OJ Clarino. We've got OJ Clarino on Across the Line today. How's it going, OJ?
Okay lang. I'm fine. Tired after training this morning.
Morning training with Kaya, your new club. And you're joining us from Antipolo, right?
Yeah.
From Antipolo. How's it feel getting ready for this new season as of the moment?
Masaya. Happy. I wasn't really expecting a call from Coach Hoshi. So everything was just very sudden. But in a happy way. So really happy for the opportunity, thanks to Coach Yoshide and the Kaya management.
So it's an exciting opportunity for you. Now, Chris, you know OJ quite a bit. I assume you've played with him, and you've got an opportunity to see him from the sidelines as well. How's it feel to be here speaking with OJ Clarino today?
Yeah, I think when I first met OJ, or came across OJ when I was playing with Kaya.
Yeah, or I think in the national team.
Yeah, I think we've been in a few stints, haven't you? We've been involved with the national team.
Against LA Galaxy. I think that's the first time.
Right, okay. Yeah, right, okay. Well, do you know what? Completely forgot about that. So okay. you were in the squad for that game. So that would have been what, 2011? 11, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so you remember that one? That completely passed me by. So you must have been pretty young though for that particular camp.
Yeah, I was actually 21 back then. So I was just trying to learn from you guys, the senior players. Trying to get what I can learn, get some information, learn how to play more at a higher level during that time.
Because obviously you would have been, I'm assuming you're still in college at that time, right?
Yeah, I was still in UST that time.
Yeah. So sorry, OJ, I completely forgot about that one.
It's okay.
I think I must have been there for around, I say 7 to 10 days, something like that. I moved to 4 different hotels in that period, and obviously the whirlwind of playing against David Beckham. They know that obviously had played with my memory of that time. So I apologise for that.
No, it's okay. I remember because you're the only one who passed me the ball that time.
Oh, really? Yeah. It was probably just.
A few times.
It was probably intended for someone else. So don't treat that as me being hospitable in any way. But no, I remember. If I'm being quite frank, the first real a sort of hardened memory of OJ was being in that Stallions team and playing against yourself, Noi, Felonco, and just feeling as though that group. I think more so the year we won the cup. That was for me the best Stallions team that you guys had. So that would have been 2015. And I just remember, obviously, like you had quite a tough physical presence in general. I mean, you had Jordan Minter on that team. You had Simone Rota. So you had some good players, but yourself and Noi, I found sort of young, hungry. I want to say violent, a little bit violent in many ways, and probably quite a good representation of what that Stallions team was at that time. Just hardworking, industrious, but good play as well. I think that was something that was quite overlooked with Ernie's team at that time. Was they had some players they could play, and that was really that's in my mind. That's how I see you. I mean, obviously, I coached against you. You're in different teams. Aside from that, but my probably most vivid memory of OJ was being a real mainstay of that really vibrant Stallions team back in the sort of mid 2015, 2016 era. Yeah.
One of the reasons why I was really excited to get OJ on the show is because it's flown by, hasn't it? Your last 8 years of your career, right? We've had an opportunity to really watch you grow up as a footballer, and you're one of the homegrown players who's had some of the most experience playing in continental football, right? You've played in the Singapore Cup, you played in AFC Cup, you played in Champions League qualifying. So you've had an opportunity to take in this experience and get an opportunity to play with some of the best Filipino players based from abroad who have come in and plied their trade with teams like Global and Stallion, and also foreign players who have come in and boosted the squad. So I've been really, really interested to find out like sort of your experiences of playing in continental football and how drastically you've changed from 21-year-old excited that Chris Greatwich is passing you the ball at an LA Galaxy game to who you are today. New player for Kaya FC-Iloilo, looking to take on the challenge of securing qualifications into the Champions League. I mean, it's been quite a journey. What has that been like?
I don't know. It's full of ups and downs. Of course, I still want to play and prove myself and be part of the national team. Although the opportunity doesn't come, but I always keep myself positive, optimistic with everything that's happening. And then on the topic of playing outside, the more you play outside, the more you change your game. So when I was young, I was always running. I always want the ball in front of me because that was my strength, my speed that time. But as I grow older, you remember that the basics are very important. So the first touch, even your second touch after you control the ball, the technique, the quick decision making. So maybe around 20, when I was 25, 26, I started doing a lot of extra focusing more, a lot of basic training, just passing the ball on the wall, juggling, and then setting up my second touch, things like that. And then, after that, I felt like I improved. So I became more calm. I can time my runs better compared before, where I just run for 90 minutes like a horse with a shade, parang shade sa side.
Yeah.
But I can never change my aggressiveness because I don't know. I'm a very competitive person. So I'm always not violent, pero more on aggressive. Just aggressive. Just that's my style of play, attacking or defending. I just like I go all out in I'm not sure if it's in a smart way, but always trying to win the ball. First ball, second ball, whatever happens. Not giving up in the play.
I would beg to differ. I've got many scars from Stallions games where the ball was long gone, and I don't think that's why I said the violent streak is very prevalent amongst yourself and Mr. Falonka.
Yeah, but that's my way of like showing respect to my opponent because I don't want to play soft. Because especially knowing if your opponent is a very good player, and technically I know that he's a lot better than me, so that's where I try to win my game, my one-on-one games by playing harder than the opponent. I don't know. That's just
you could have just shook my hand. You could have showed me some respect by maybe shaking my hand or asking for a picture afterwards. But okay,
yeah,
that's fine. But I'm quite interested, OJ. No, yeah, I appreciate that. I'm only kidding you, but I want to sort of unpack that a little bit. So you said there, like you started to work on your basics a lot older. You know, like kind of as your career was underway. Like, how did you learn the game initially? Like, how did you get started off in the game?
Just school. Training in schools. Like I started playing in Maris under Coach Frank, the new coach of United, and then transferred to LaSalle Green Hills under Coach Maro. So all my trainings were just in schools. But when I was a kid, we do a lot of like one-on-one with my brothers at the garage. Mm-hmm. So that's where I just get everything. And then when I got older, I know that I'm still not there. So I want to improve. I want to play at the highest level possible. So I started doing extra. If my body can do twice a day training, if my body's not that tired, I'll do a little bit of extra with the ball. A lot of training with the ball, because I know I'm not the best with the ball, but especially before.
That's
Hope
interesting.
I answered your question.
There's an interesting thing there that you mentioned about playing one-on-one with your brothers. That was how you started the game, or fell in love with the game. That's sort of a thing with Clarinos. You guys are prevalent over many generations. You guys are well known as a footballing family. Tell us a little bit about that. Like, how did that get started? That there is such a footballing culture amongst the Clarinos.
My brothers, they started it. My eldest brother and eldest sister, they started playing in South Region Woodrose. And then so my father thought that we can save money by getting sports scholarship. Yeah. So that's where it all started. And then my brothers and eldest sister always bring us to their training in UST. So yeah, so that's where we fell in love with the game. So
how many of you guys, siblings? How many?
We're 11. So
how many of you guys play football?
10 of us plays football. Only one doesn't.
Only one doesn't play football. What does he play? Or she? What is?
Nothing.
Nothing.
Just nor cheerleader.
Cheerleader.
Yeah.
How did she withstand the peer pressure?
I don't know. She tries to watch. She tries to watch games and try to analyze the game so that she doesn't feel left out every time we talk about football.
So outside of her, you guys have placed the burden on the educational system by getting free education, all the lot of you, 10 of you.
Yeah,
a burden on on the educational system. But you guys are all scholars. Your brother is playing abroad. Another one of your brothers has joined UCFC. So
the youngest.
Yeah, there's an opportunity for you to play against your brother. Is that something that you've done before?
No, I haven't played against them. Last season I played with them, with my brother Ian, the one in Australia. But against them, not yet. So this is the first time. Looking forward to it though.
This is your
Especially it's
opportunity
the
to get
last
tips
game.
from Chris. Chris has had quite a few opportunities to battle with his
Yeah,
brother.
against Simon. They were always rough in the middle every time I watch Loyola against Kaya.
Yeah, my advice to you with that is just make sure you shake hands after the games. Too many times we took that,
Personally.
Personally, and after the games it gets a little bit heated, and some things were said on the pitch that perhaps we knew that would hurt each other. So that's not something that I would advise any other siblings playing against each other. But obviously when you're competitive, that's just how it is, right? That's just the nature of being in that type of environment. You just want to win, and you do whatever it takes to win. And sometimes we would say things that were not too pleasant to one another, but at the end of the day, we just want to win for each individual and also for the team. But so I want to. You mentioned Ian, someone who was on my radar a long time ago as a promising collegiate player. Tried to sign him at one point. I think, to be honest, I tried to sign a lot of you at one point. But Ian's in Australia at the moment. Tell us a little bit about what his time in Australia looks like.
So he's there because of his girlfriend, fiance. I think she got a job in Australia, so he's her de facto. And then when he arrived in Australia, he started looking for clubs, playing in open place, and then one player invited him to have a tryout with some teams in the NPL 1, NPL 2 teams. So there, and then he ended up in, I'm not sure, it's not in the NPL. I think Itawara League. I'm not sure. It's like a state league, but it has a sister club in NPL 1. So I thought, that's where he is right now. So I told him to just continue playing and give everything all the time, every game, because you don't know who's watching.
Yeah. But is his long-term ambition to stay in Australia with his partner, or is he looking to come back and play?
I think so, because I think they're fixing their permanent residence already in Australia.
Right.
Hopefully soon, maybe, if he gets a better offer, maybe things will change for him.
Yeah.
Was that something that you were interested in, OJ, yourself, playing abroad? Was that on the spectrum of your ambition?
Yeah, all the time. So I work hard to reach like what I said, I like to reach the highest level of football that I can reach. So hopefully if it's outside the Philippines. But for now, this one's okay. This one satisfies me, makes me happy every day, makes me excited to go to training every day.
Right. I mentioned earlier some of the places that you've had an opportunity to compete at, right? AFC Cup, Champions League qualifiers, you've had the Singapore Cup. Amongst the continental competitions that you've had an opportunity to play in, which one stands out to you the most?
I think the game against Brisbane, the Champions League qualifiers, because the level was really different. The way they move the ball, the way they move without the ball, it seems like we were playing against 15 players. We were tired after the game. Yeah, the technique, the weight of their passes, the timing of their runs, everything, how the whole team moves, it was really different. After the game, I asked for a copy, and I watched the game and speechless. Really different.
What was it like for you being a part of that game? Like, how many other homegrown players were with you on that global squad?
It was me, Bugas, Paulo,
Mm-hmm.
Marco Casambre, Amani, Pat, Tato. I think those were
Not bad. That's a pretty good number.
And Dodong Villarreal.
Oh, really?
He was part of Stallions that time. Stallions.
Global.
Global that time, before he transferred to Stallions.
Really? I did not know that. That's a pretty incredible group of
Yeah,
players to have been exposed to that level. You guys were the first, right? Before Sarah started making
beating
that
the
more of
next
a habit.
year. Yeah.
Right,
And
right.
also pala Paulo Salenga, I forgot. Yeah, Paulo Salenga was there.
That's right. Paulo Salenga played on that team as well. That was kind of like the second coming of Global, like a different era, right? There was like a first group, and then that sort of won trophies where Hoshi was still playing in the middle, and Izo El Habib and the rest of the gang. And then
Yeah.
now that was kind of like the second version, right? Chris, do you remember playing against this version of Global?
That was sort of towards the end of my time, really. I'm more familiar with that first wave, you know, Jeffrey Christians, Patrick Reichelt, that era. Like
Yeah,
I said,
yeah.
Israel Habib, the group that they had when I first came here, and then that sort of evolved, didn't it? In that period, so when they were playing in the Champions League, obviously the likes of, like you said, they had probably a stronger core of homegrown players. Obviously, Misag was
Yeah.
had probably risen to more prominence. I would say he was probably a little bit more prominent at that time. Like he was a bit more of a peripheral figure when I first came, but then became a more prominent member of that team. Obviously, Matty Hartman was there by that time, I think, and that, like you said, that was a different group, and that was probably a good time to be on that team because you had Serres were kind of in the ascendancy, but they hadn't exerted their power at that time. We had gone through, probably four coaching changes, I think, in that period. So Kaya wasn't a particularly stable as an organisation, and while Stallions probably had their share of stability, they probably had a bit of a lull post Rufus Sanchez and Waka Cañas. So with Morocco having their ups and downs, it was prime time really for Global to stake their claim in that period. And I think I remember like you and Matthew Hartman, for example, in the middle of the midfield. I mean, you played in a number of different positions, and you were quite the utility man. But
Yeah.
that was a very robust midfield. It was you and Matt. I think Matt, you complimented Matt really well. I was at that time. I think Matt was probably the best player in the league. That season that you guys won the league, when you had you like Serge Kaoli on the wing, Minigishi
On the left.
on the left. I think you had a good mixture of. Obviously, you had some real pace out on the wing. Actually, across the front three, but then you complemented that with real workman-like players in the middle of the park yourself. And Matt, I think, were quite unsung heroes in that team. I mean, of all the teams that you played on, would you say that was the best team that you played on a domestic level?
So far, right now, yeah. And also because of the coach gave me a very straight and easy instruction. He just told me to defend hard in the middle and intercept all the balls. And if you get the ball, just give it to whoever's close to you. So, so that was.
So who's that, Coach Lee?
Yeah, Coach Lee. He just told me to run like crazy, defend like crazy, and then give the ball away to the nearest teammate. And that's all. Usually, Matt is always beside me. So even if they get past me, Matt is always there. And same, Matt is an aggressive player. He's a very competitive player. So it's really easy to play with him, especially in the middle.
I think their physicality as well really helped because it wasn't just yourself. I mean, Matt's not, in terms of stature, not the biggest, but he had good energy. And then you had the likes of, Nikolic was in that team as well. And I know he had obviously stayed around for a number of years and perhaps wasn't as dominant as he was in that first year. And perhaps creates this sort of hazy memory of just how good he was in that first year because he was pretty formidable. Like, I remember really that.
His partnership really good. With Amani.
Was listen, you guys were really hard to play against because I remember we got beat, I think it was 3-2, and the whole pre-game it was about, listen guys, they start really fast. We spent all week working on like being hyper pressed in the first 10, 15 minutes of the game, how we're going to deal with that pressure. And then lo and behold, I think we were 2-0 down in the first 10 minutes. And they were the exact scenario that we created all week in training. And it was like, it was incredibly frustrating. I don't know whether we sort of overemphasized that point, but that seemed to be your game plan. You steamrolled teams in the first 15, 20 minutes. I even remember the Ceres game that you guys, I think it was like the top of the table clash. I think you won it 3-2.
It's a draw, 3-3.
3-3, right? But
Yeah.
you absolutely steamrolled them in the first half. You just had to avoid defeat because I think you had enough games in hand. You had enough points in hand. As long as you avoided defeat, you would have been fine because the running was quite kind for you. And were you 2-0 or 3-1 up? Was it something like that? It was
3-1. The
3-1
goal
up.
Pika, third goal.
Yeah. And then you sort of ran out of steam towards the end. And I remember you guys hanging on in that match. But
yeah.
I always admired that team. And I think, again, you and Matt were quite underappreciated and undervalued, I felt, because you guys were really the engine room that enabled you to have those fast starts and really impose yourself on the opponent straight from the get-go.
Yeah, me and Matt were talking before the game. He told me to just, because we know the midfield of Ceres are very, very good, like Manu, and who's the other one? Ingreso, and there's one more that time, Martin, I think.
Storblitz?
Yeah, or Paul. That was Paul that during that time, and he told me to just pressure like crazy, kick them if you want, or just don't let them turn. So that's what we did in the middle, and attack them on counterattacks because that time Misak, but 2016 was really. He was really good. I don't know. Every time he kicks the ball, it ends up in the.
I was actually a little bit late to this call. I was stuck watching 2016 highlights of OJ Clarino. You did a little bit more than just aggress the ball. You know, you were good on the ball as well. You were making runs in behind. You're setting up goals. But yeah, there was definitely a lot of aggression though. Like that game in particular that you're speaking of.
Yeah.
The highlight was, I think, maybe 2-3 clips of you taking the ball away from a player and the player putting their hands up, looking at the referee like, hey, man, he just came in, kneed me on the thigh, or took out a little bit on my heel, but everything was clean. Yeah, I mean, it's quite fascinating when you look back at your career at so many interesting players that you played with, right? I mean, Chris mentioned a while ago just some of the players there. There was also Dennis Villanueva that you played with. And then let's start there, actually, with Global, the best team that you've played on. Who did you learn from the most in that setup?
That 2016 team?
Yeah.
A lot. Like, for example, Milan always tells me where to position myself, especially during training. He teaches me where to position myself, who to pressure, if I go or stay. Same with Pat. Pat always, especially Pat, because he's the keeper, he sees everything. So he also guides me where to position myself. Matt as well. So, but mostly between me and Matt, usually I let Matt attack because he's really good in supporting the attack. And then, I've learned a lot of things with different players because. Yeah, like what I said, I'm not the best player, but I try to adapt to every situation if I know my limits. So I always try to do my job for the team. So yeah,
you play a lot of midfield for Global, right?
Yeah, so I got a lot of guidance through my teammates, mostly all of them. Misak, everyone, Omid, especially Omid also. Omid supports us a lot.
I forgot Omid was part of that Global squad. Man, you guys had an interesting mix going on over there. But you played also right wing. You also played right back. What's your
left
position? Left wing.
Yeah. So I started in college. I was playing as a striker, even in SEA Games before.
You got the golden boot in UAAP, right?
No, never. I never won the golden boot. Yeah.
Okay.
It was Jingoy always. Jingoy or Janjan.
Or Melissa, right.
Yeah. So I started playing as a striker. My first season, I was playing as a striker and then played as a right wing or left wing. And then 2012 UFL Cup, they played me as a left back. And then, yeah, 2013 in Pachanga, I played all season on the left. 2014, random positions again, midfield, striker, both wings, and left back. And then 2015, that's where Coach Ernie started using me in the middle, behind the striker. And then behind Jordan. One more player, Jordan, very good player. It's very easy to play with. And then 2016, yeah, that's where I usually cover the players who are suspended. So if, for example, if Sato is not in the lineup, they usually put me on the left or on the right. Or I played one time in center as a center back.
What?
Yeah.
Okay, I was about to say that so you've covered every position except for center back and goalie, but I guess it's just goalie that you haven't played.
Yeah, so yeah, I guess I'm a utility guy.
What's the mindset there? Like when you're, and how do you even adapt to different roles, right? There are players that will complain and throw a fit if you take them out of their central role, if you take them out of their preferred spot. But how come you don't seem to ever have a complaint about being deployed all over the pitch?
I don't know. I just enjoy playing. So as long as I play, I don't mind playing and helping the team inside the field. So if that's where I should be playing in that game to help the team, then I'll do it. That's what I always tell myself. Of course, sometimes I'm frustrated because I want to play my natural position, but I know if I get frustrated, I won't be able to focus in the game. So I quickly change my mindset and focus straight.
Just quite recently, I had an opportunity to speak with Patrick Dato. Patrick is in Supanburi at the moment, another one of those homegrown players that you mentioned earlier that you played with in Global. And one thing that we were able to speak about was the mentality of being able to continuously be working on yourself, always be growing, always be progressing. And I feel like that's been a stumbling block for a lot of homegrown players ever since the time that more foreign-based Filipinos came back and more foreigners got involved in the game. Like there was a lot of homegrown players that were complaining that they weren't getting the proper opportunities or not assimilating well to the new level. How did you find that transition? Because that felt like a very important moment in Philippine football. How did you navigate that path and that new challenge of having to raise your game to this new standard?
Oh, wait lang. What I noticed with the homegrown players that you mentioned, because sometimes the Filipino players are too sensitive. So that's why they get frustrated or they throw tantrums if things don't go their way. So me, I just I like what I've said. I just adapt. If there's a player who's better than me, then I'll support him. But also trying to improve myself to get that position like that. So always try to find ways to improve yourself. Very important is the individual training for me. That's where I improved a lot. So because I've had a lot of situations where these players are chosen over me. So, but I don't mind because I know their level is really far from me. So what I do is I train serious during training and then recover and then do extra, always doing extra to reach that level. So I think there's no secret. Just do extra, to just hard work, all hard work.
That's interesting because what I hear is mostly like, you have to have that, I suppose that humility to accept that maybe somebody is better than you. And it's for reasons that are not, how should you say, malicious. It's because the guy's better, right? So then you have to channel your energy na parang imbis na life is unfair. It's like, I gotta find ways to bridge that gap. And that's interesting because, your mindset that you speak of that way and Patrick's is similar in that you have to be mentally strong, especially when you're being
Very.
criticized. And him being a goalkeeper, obviously, he's had some tough moments where people will look at you and think and throw a lot of criticism your way, and you have to be willing to get back up and prove yourself, right? And
Yeah.
it's a tough one, you know. A lot of homegrown players are going to have to go through that challenge, and a lot of culture shock as well. As you mentioned, there's a lot of sensitivity with regards to Filipinos, and the teams that you were part of were notoriously vocal. The players were notoriously famous for shouting at each other during matches and being rough with one another. So was that strange for you living in that environment for the first time?
Not really, because I expected it already. Because especially knowing the personality of each individual in the team, you know, all of them are very competitive. All of them doesn't want to lose. So there will be a time that someone will shout at you, especially if you commit a simple mistake, because everyone's a perfectionist, and everyone doesn't want to lose. So that's normal. I was expecting it already, so it didn't bother me actually.
Chris, is this a type of mindset, do you think, that is familiar to you, or more prevalent or less prevalent with the homegrown players that you've had an opportunity to work with?
Yeah, I was going to ask OJ and piggyback a little bit on your question, because I think what OJ was saying is right. You know, some of the guys that I came across, homegrown players, I found to be oversensitive. Maybe that's the way I would describe it.
Very emotional.
A little emotional, and take it personally.
Yeah.
So let's say, for example, if you make a selection on a given day as to why that individual player is playing above you, it's ultimately, especially as a coach, you just pick the team that you think is best on that day to win a game of football. It's not personal. It's not that you don't like that person individually, and it might be that another player is better suited based on the opponent, based on the way in which you want to play, based on the situation, whatever that might be. But I think sometimes people struggle to do that, and a little bit of Gizmis sort of leads on to that, like a little bit of, and then of course what I've also found is that there are pockets, and this is it's not a broad thing, it's not a consistent thing, but there are pockets of individuals who then, you know, use as OJ was alluding to, that, you know, he likes this player more because he's feel British, and we had it before, you know, the coach is German, so he likes to feel Germans. You know, these sorts of things start to rear its ugly head. And I think actually, if you look at it, and you've mentioned two of them already, the guys who I don't think have made too many excuses are guys like Amani and guys like Patrick Data. Yeah. You know, like you take Amani, for example. I mean, he was behind Rob, he was behind Wani, you know, and at that time when you're coming through, you're not going to argue with anyone. You know, those two players were on top of their game. But what he did a great job of, I think, is learning from two experienced players, knowing that he has to bide his time, and when the time is ready, he's going to perform. And then he's done that. And now we look at him now. I would say he's a regular member of the squad. He's obviously had opportunities abroad and is making a good living for himself. So this is fantastic. You know, Data is even more of an example of that, and even more exaggerated version. You know, he's behind Neil and Michael Falkersgaard. You know, and Neil Etheridge is you know, arguably the best player the country's ever had. So, you know, and he's only got one position he can play in. So, but instead of, you know, bitching and moaning about it, he's got his head down. He's worked really hard, and, you know, he's in the squad. Most call-ups he gets. He's had an opportunity to play abroad, you know, and he's doing fantastically well, and he's carving out a great career for himself. And what brings me back a little bit is, although some of those players have had mixed sort of experiences with the national team in your sort of generation, your age bracket. So I'm looking at the guy like John Beliza, you know, has been involved with the national team. Who else did you mention? Obviously, yourself has had involvement. Noy has had involvements with the national team. Dato has been involved. Amani. You know, these are guys kind of in and around your age bracket, give or take 1 or 2 years. But it doesn't seem to be so many, I would say, you know, early 20s that are kind of coming through. I mean, Harvey's obviously the main one, really, that you really that's kind of managed to break through a little bit. But it doesn't seem to be so many. Is Is there a reason? Is that mindset changed? Do you think there's a lot of younger players now who are just like, look, I'm not even going to get involved. I'm not even going to try to put myself out there because it's just going to be too hard because the level is and the gap is too big now.
I'm not sure because what I noticed in Kaya, all the Kaya younger boys are trying to push themselves to reach their own dream. That's being part of the national team, playing outside. So I think the mindset has changed a bit, but also because of the help of the coaching staff. The coaching staff shows trust with the players, to the players. So I think the more trust the staff gives, the more confidence the player has. So right now, what I've noticed in the team is I think the local young boys are doing really well in terms of their mindset. All of them are very positive. So hopefully, same goes with other players, other young players in other teams.
And who do you see who could potentially break through, do you think? Obviously, as I mentioned, Harvey. I mean, JB Belong has been floating around for a long time. I'd love to see him kind of make that breakthrough. Yeah. But who else have you seen who you think have that sort of mentality who could potentially break through, whether it to be, make a real challenge at the PFL level or potentially break through into the national team at some stage?
So I can see, example, Harvey, he's there because he's fast, he's long, he's tall. He can play different position. I think Amita Nano has a chance because he's very technical. Although he's small, but he uses his size really well. He's a smart player. Also Audi. I can see Audi. Also, hopefully he gets a break. So because he's also there, he's technical. The only thing he lacks is, I think, experience, which is what other player has. But his skill sets are there. I think once he gets his break, he will grab the opportunity. Who else? Janjan also. I think Janjan, hopefully he gets his call up soon. I played with him, trained with him last season, and he's really good, really different. His finishing is, for a homegrown player, his technique is, I think he can play outside. That's what I want to say.
That's quite interesting that you mentioned Janjan. He's been your on again, off again teammate for quite some time, right? You've got a bit of a love story with Stallion Football Club. You've joined them and left them on 3 separate occasions. Tell me about that relationship a little bit and why it is that you gravitate and get pulled away from Stallion.
Actually, I'm very thankful with Stallion, with Coach Ernie, because my first season, he invited me to join, so I joined. And then I noticed that I won't be able to get any playing time for next season, especially Rufus there. Balot was playing really well, and then the Koreans. So I talked to him, told him that I will transfer for next season to Pachanga, and hopefully I can get back if I get more playing time. So after the season in Pachanga, I played well. That's where Coach Ernie called me again, or I don't know if he called me or I went to him. So anyway, so after that, I played until mid 2015, and then Global approached me. My plan wasn't really to transfer to Global that time but the offer was really different that time. And Coach Ernie told me straight that they cannot match the offer. So I'm also thankful that he answered my questions to him that time straight to the point. So that time I transferred to Global, and then I think 2017 I ruptured my ACL again mid season, and I wasn't able to play for 1.5 season.
Wow.
Yeah, so 2017-18. And I was really thankful with Coach Ernie because he's the one who approached me and told me that I can come back anytime as long as I'm still able to play.
Mm.
So there. So he gave me an opportunity to play again, and then this time it was really difficult for me na because the training is 6 a.m. in Laguna, and I live in Antipolo, so I have to wake up 4 a.m. every day. So and then my body gave up. I was sick for I was sick at least twice a month that time.
Wow.
So yeah, I asked permission to that I will find another team. I won't be able to join Stallions anymore because my body couldn't handle it. So
Wow.
that's the story.
That's pretty incredible.
Yeah.
Coach Ernie Nieres is kind of a polarizing character in Philippine football. Some people love him, some people hate him. Obviously, he's got a title under his belt, and he's got a fantastic sort of persona about him. But how would you describe Ernie Nieres?
Same, but what people don't see is if you're in good, how can I say this? If you're in good terms with Coach Cheney, he will have your back always. He will have your back all the time, whatever happens.
Mm.
That's what's good with Coach Cheney. He may be intimidating sometimes, but he's a malambing person. He's a malambing person in reality.
Those are. Do you know what malambing means, Chris?
No, go on, explain it to me.
What's malambing in English?
How would you like affectionate? How would you say like you know like soft and affectionate? Do you know what I mean? Like
cuddly.
Cuddly. Yeah. Was it
Cuddly.
All words that you would not expect in the region of describing Coach Ernie Nieres?
Yeah.
That's shocking. Really, it really is. Cuddly and Coach Ernie, Chris, care to comment?
No comment. No comment from me with that one. I don't see the cuddly side. If OJ's description of it is his own version of his own.
Because I've been with him since 2011.
So that's up to him. I'm not sure many other people would describe him as cuddly. So let's just leave it at that.
You have to experience him for maybe a year or 8 years, 9 years. Like what I did.
There's an opportunity now for you, OJ, to not just play in the qualifiers of the Champions League, but play in the Champions League itself, and to be promised at least 6 games, playing against clubs from Japan, Korea, and China, Australia. What is the prospect of the upcoming league that is just around the corner, and potentially, as I said, securing a piece of history in Philippine club football? How do you feel about all this that's coming up?
Actually, I'm nervous because this season is you only have 5 games, so every game matters. And in football, anything can happen. Although I believe that the team is really, really strong, but you also need luck. In football, you will always need luck to get where you want, to get what you want. So hopefully luck, because I believe the team is really good, really, really, really good. The players are complete, not just the starting 11, but the reserves are really well. Anyone can replace anyone in the starting 11. So I really see the team. I can see the team winning. Hopefully.
And what have you been dreaming about the prospect of playing in the Champions League? Have you thought about it? And if so, like, what do you think about being able to play at that level?
To play against the top players in Asia, it's one list in my bucket list. Tama ba? Correct.
One item on your bucket list.
One item on my bucket list. Yeah. Yeah. That's part of my dream, to play against the top players in Asia. Also the top foreigners, because a lot of top foreigners from Europe, from South America, North America, that plays in Asia right now. So that's a team to play against them. And give them a good fight, not just not just to play there and compete. Tama ba? Correct ba?
Yeah.
Not just to play there and
Not
just
not
go
just
there.
to show up. Yeah.
Not just to show, but to go there and compete.
Leave a few bruises
Yeah.
if possible. But yeah, so if that is an item on your bucket list, what are some other items perhaps on your bucket list that you are still looking to check off in your footballing career?
Of course, to be able to play outside, at least for me right now in my age, at least one season. I'm still chasing that dream. Actually, I was about to, before the pandemic, I was about to hang up my boots because I was preparing for my own wedding, and I need to earn more. To earn more to prepare myself for the future. That's why I'm thankful for Coach Hoshi and Paul for giving me a chance, for giving me an opportunity to play again.
Wait a minute. So you were gonna hang up your boots? So if you weren't gonna join this season, what were you gonna do? What was OJ Clarino's next career?
I do strength and conditioning and football coaching.
So still in the realm of fitness and football.
Yeah.
Okay, I thought you were gonna go off and be an accountant or something like that.
No,
put on
I
a suit and
graduated
tie.
sports science. So
Okay, so that wouldn't have been even possible. So sports science is the way to go. Okay, all right. So you're looking to play abroad, looking to play obviously on the highest level in Asia next season, if possible, by securing the championship. We've covered the future. We've covered a bit of your past. It's been tremendous being able to catch up with you, OJ, and we've spent almost an hour speaking with you. So we appreciate the time that you've shared with us here on Across the Line.
Thank you, Jing. Thank you, Chris. I also want to tell Chris I didn't have an opportunity to really thank you for scoring the most important goals in Philippine football history. I think people don't really give credit. I don't really credit those goals that much, but I really believe that those are the most important goals. That's why a lot of players are. Playing professional football here in the country. Those goals are one of the reasons.
Good God, That's a good way to end the show, huh, Chris?
Wow. Hey, Jing. We should have got him on the show a lot earlier if we knew he was going to give me these types of endorsements. That's wonderful. So, yeah.
Because I don't see. I see other people like giving credit to. Of course, Phil. He needs to have the credit also. But those goals really started everything.
Yeah, listen, I was at the right place at the right time. I think I get just about the right amount of credit, if I'm being honest. So I appreciate you and saying that, and I appreciate you having the awareness of what's going on, because I think that's something that, and it's not just with myself, it's more maybe with the work that my generation put in to
sacrifices
a lot of this. Yeah, that really is it. And listen, like I said, OJ, I was in the right place at the right time to maybe put the rubber stamp on my generation to really change things for the future generations. And like I said, maybe some other people have got more plaudits, but at the end of the day, that's something that's out of my control. So I can't really comment too much about that. But what I hope really, OJ, is that your generation and generations to come just don't take that legacy for granted, because, I see a lot of stuff that goes on off the field that I just don't particularly like. And it's very frustrating for you guys as players. And it's frustrating for people like myself and the stakeholders of the game to see things as the way that they are right now. But I think what's important is for guys like yourself, when you mentioned the other guys that are in and around your generation of players, you're the ones who need to maybe push forward through this difficult time to ensure that our legacy isn't wasted and to continue to push the game forward. So I appreciate you saying that, and I'm hoping that you guys and your generation can create your own legacy or keep pushing that legacy forward. So thanks, OJ. Thank you for that.
Yeah, you're welcome. I've been trying to tell you that a long time, but yeah, we always meet in the field, inside the field.
Yeah, and it doesn't really. Yeah, if we're arguing on the pitch, it's probably not the best time to try to tackle that. So I appreciate that, OJ. Thank you.
You're welcome.
OJ Clarino, we appreciate you coming on the show. They can find you on Instagram. That seems to be where you're most active. Twitter has not been active in since 2016 or something like that.
And no Facebook because too much distractions.
Too much distractions. A man of focus, OJ Clarino. I like it. So find him on Instagram if you'd like to speak to him or tell him your thoughts or comments or how much you appreciate him. As you should, OJ Clarino, part of that generation of homegrown players that the next generations are looking forward to and seeing how they're carving out a path and for themselves and creating a football career for themselves. And he's 8 years into his career and he's on the verge of something perhaps even bigger. So he's doing quite well for himself. So we appreciate you. If you enjoyed this episode with OJ Clarino, please do subscribe to the show on YouTube, Spotify, and on Apple Podcasts, and look for us on Facebook, Twitter, and on Instagram. That is it for us on this Football Friday, and we look forward to catching you next time.